Time and space is a very powerful combination. You probably have experiences in your life where you didn't realize how important somebody was to you until they were no longer a part of your life. It's easy to take things for granted when they're a constant in our life, but when you remove that constant from your life, then sometimes you realize the importance that the thing or that person played in your life, and you learn to appreciate it better. And it goes the other way around too. Other people, if they don't have you in the life that in the way they once had you, then sometimes they realize the importance you played, and sometimes they realize they took you for granted. So it's true. Distance does make the heart grow fonder. And that's something that you see quite a lot. And it's not just toxic relationships, obviously, healthy relationships, just normal interactions with people. Sometimes you get on with your family better if you don't see them every day. And sometimes you learn to appreciate your partner better if occasionally you spend a couple of days or even a week away from them. So you can learn to appreciate the place that they actually have in your life. So, but when it comes to dealing with toxic people, time and space is important for a different reason. Because when you're dealing with somebody who's been really unfair towards you, been very mean towards you, been very toxic towards you, been very abusive towards you, manipulative, then going no contact is is the only way you can really break that bond. It's the only way you can remove the access of that toxic person from your life to avoid them continuing to control you. Because when you're dealing with toxic people, generally they're using you to serve their agenda, not yours. These people generally look at you only from the perspective of what can you do to serve them? What can you do to make them feel better? There's usually very little or no regard towards you. And what you often realize if you've dealt with these people is as long as you are interacting with them, as long as you are in some way still in their life and they're still actively in your life, then you can't quite cut those controlling, dominating, manipulative cords. And you can't heal from it unless you detach from the person. So when you realize that you've been dealing with somebody who's not healthy and you've had the chance to detach, then you need to cut off all contact. And by cutting off all contact, that also means don't even don't give the person any insights into your life, even indirectly. And you shouldn't be thinking about the person more than you have to. Of course, sometimes you will have the thoughts of the person, especially if they were in your life before, but don't go pursuing them, their whereabouts, the activities they're up to, because in a way, you're holding yourself you're holding yourself in that kind of gravitational pull by doing that. And but when you've been dealing with somebody who's controlling and manipulative, they want to have the right level of information, resources within their grasp about you so that they feel they can still have control over you, so that they feel they can still manipulate you. And when you go no contact on these people, you can sometimes cause them to have unpredictable reactions. Because if you're dealing with a very controlling, dominating person, and all of a sudden you withdraw yourself by not letting that person have any more control or dominance over you, then that can be a hard pill for that person to swallow. And that's so often where that person tries to convince you that it's in your interest to stay within their orbit. That is, they try to convince you that they're such a good person, that they're such an important part of your life, that it's not in your interest to make it without them. And sometimes if it was an ex-romance, sometimes they might try to rekindle things. And they can be very convincing because people who are led by the need to control, you go in no contact, you take that away from them, and they do not like it. So this whole thing about going no contact, it's such a powerful thing on many fronts, because if you're dealing with somebody who's not healthy for you, then going no contact, it removes that person's ability to control you. It removes that person's ability to use you for their agenda. And of course, that probably upsets them. And of course, that sometimes, often, almost always, might entice them to have some strong reaction, which means they might resurface into your life in some way. But your job, of course, is to ignore all that and keep them at bay, because you need to use no contact to heal. You need to use no contact to figure out who you were. You need to use no contact to kind of detach from that grip they've had on you for so long, because that's what these controlling people have, is this grip on you. You feel like you can't really even think on your own. You can't really act on your own. It's almost like everything you do is somehow an extension of them. And unless you have quite a lot of time away from them, it's really hard to break that. But like I was saying earlier, even if you take a kind of sideways step and look at more kind of healthy relationships, or relationships where it wasn't necessarily the case that one person was being abusive towards the other. Maybe just things kind of, maybe the spark just kind of fizzled it out, or people got very used to each other. Time and space, I wouldn't say full no contact, but sometimes having that time and space away from that person, like a small period of no contact where you just kind of focus on your things and they're focusing on their things, like that can really, it can be good to put things into perspective, and it can be good to cause you to remember the important role that certain people might play in your life. But when you're dealing with toxic people, and people have caused you a lot of harm, people who have used you, and people who just don't display empathy or compassion towards you in any way, you really do need, when you manage to detach, you really do need to stick to it. You really do need to remove the ability of that person to control you, because that's all they see you as. They see you as an extension of them. They see you as a resource, and they don't care if they run you to the ground by depleting you through just their normal course of behaviors. They don't care about that. That's just not the way narcissists and toxic abusers feel or think. And you can never really heal as long as you're in any way interacting with them, pursuing them, or allowing them to pursue you, or kind of know all about your whereabouts. So just be mindful of that whole thing around, time and space is a very powerful thing. It's a powerful thing even when you're dealing with healthy people, where you just need to kind of put things into perspective and learn the importance that people might play in your life. And sometimes for them to have that perspective of the role that you play in their lives. And then obviously when you're dealing with toxic people, narcissists, you take it one step further, where it's not just a matter of having the time and space. You go full no contact, and you stick to it, because it's the only way you can keep them from holding leverage over you, and it's the only way you can keep them from steering you in a way that purely serves them, even if it's not in your interest at all. Thanks for watching.